While many rappers have made it clear this year that they absolutely hate Drake, one rapper that quietly despises Drake is somebody who isn't just a superstar themselves, but that has released some of the biggest hit songs the genre has seen alongside him in recent years, and I am of course talking about none other than Travis Scott. And while during all the beef that's went down, we have constantly shrugged off Drake and Travis Scott's potential tension and any possible disses and moves they made against one another as being nothing. When we look at everything that's went down during this beef, with the recent report from DJ Academics that there is still one other rapper that we would have never expected in the shadows who still has their own problems with Drake. When we put the pieces together and look at the complicated history between these two, we can see that there isn't just tension between them, but that the beef may be bigger than any of us could have thought. Now, while Drake and Travis Scott not being as friendly as we have thought may seem shocking at first glance because of what seems like their constant support of one another and the way they have made so many hit songs together, when we look beyond their biggest moments, you start to see that things get more complicated than that. But when it comes to understanding this, we don't need to look any further to figure out where they stand right now than the timeline of this most recent all-out beef in rap music, which, while we are going to remember in the history books for what Kendrick Lamar pulled off, was still all initiated by Future and Metro Boomin with their album that was designed in its very nature to position some of the biggest stars in the rap game against Drake, We Don't Trust You. And with this project, from Kendrick Lamar to Rick Ross, these artists came into this album to not just call out Drake like Kendrick did, but also stand alongside their fellow industry heavyweights and show the world that Drake may not be the guy we have thought he is, and featured on this album right alongside rappers who have released full-on diss tracks about Drake, and at that, who was featured not once but twice on the album, was Travis Scott. And while if this was all the evidence out there, this would not be enough to determine that things between Travis and Drake have went sour. When we go back to the night of March 17th at Rolling Loud, California, what went down on the main stage that night tells us everything that we need to know. Now, during Future and Metro Boomin's headlining performance, they previewed songs from the not yet released We Don't Trust You album, and as they brought out Travis Scott as a special guest during the performance, Travis urged Metro to play the track where Kendrick Lamar changed everything with Like That. And while Kendrick's verse was not played here, some of Future's portion of the song was, and overall, when we look at this moment and see how excited Travis Scott was to hear this song on the Rolling Loud stage, the chances that Travis was this hyped up about specifically this track compared to the rest of the album without the Kendrick verse is considerably low. And all in all, because of Travis's excitement and how he urged Metro to play Like That, Travis did have a clue about what was coming Drake's way. And just to add further to this idea, when we look at this beef and look at the different sides rappers are on, and especially with neutral parties, all we need to do is look at how 21 Savage navigated this beef compared to Travis, and this reveals to us even more. Now, throughout the height of where 21 Savage's closest collaborators in the industry in both Drake and Metro Boomin were feuding, he spoke about the feud multiple times to let everyone know that both of them are his brothers, and that he is still close with them. And as 21 and Metro have still alluded to the fact recently that they have been in the studio together, and even that they are working on the highly anticipated Savage Mode 3. We know that 21 is tapped in with Metro, and throughout the times where the two have collabed, whether it was for 21's album this year, American Dream, or for anything upcoming they have, just putting the pieces that are right in front of us together when it comes to their close working relationship, it's safe to say that 21 must have known that Future and Metro were going to use their collab album to finally declare their disdain for Drake after so many subliminal back and forths. And this is why, for the first time on a major Metro project in years, 21 didn't want to appear on the album because he knew that he would have gotten roped into the center of all the beef, which makes sense when you consider that he is actually friends with both Drake and Metro. So when we look at this from Travis Scott's perspective, when you see how he was more excited than anyone else on stage to have the song where Kendrick Lamar full-on diss Drake play at Rolling Loud, and see how he actively made a choice to appear on this album himself not once but twice, we can figure out that he was in the studio with Future and Metro and didn't just work on songs for the album with them, but knew what the entire project or its biggest moments were going to be about on some level. And now when we go to Drake's first diss track, Push-Ups, while we all recognize the shots Drake threw out to Kendrick, Future, Metro, The Weeknd, and Rick Ross on this track, I think we all missed out on the potential that Drake could have been throwing a shot to Travis Scott in honestly one of the craziest double entendres Drake has ever said with the bars, "Rollin' Loud stage, y'all were turned, that was slick. It'll probably change if your BMs start to kiss and tell." And now with this line, on the surface, Drake is definitely calling out Future and wanted us to think this, as the whole kiss and tell part of the bar references the mother of one of Future's kids in Sierra and her 2015 hit song of the same name. But when you look at this line further in context of what went down on that Rolling Loud stage, it seems to be really more about Travis Scott, as first off, Travis was the one who was most excited about playing this song, and this moment really did go as viral as it did because of his high energy about it all. And while from a lyrical craftsmanship perspective, this bar is made to throw us off guard and think that it is written to throw shade at Future, in actuality, it seems to be targeted much more to Travis, as Drake actually had a history with the mother of Travis's kid in, of course, Kylie Jenner years ago, and while we don't know the full extent of this relationship, what we do know is that they were hanging out together for a period of time, and as Drake was never with Future's ex Sierra. And as we saw later on Family Matters with A$AP Rocky and Rihanna, Drake loves to throw this type of diss in people's faces that pretty much is telling them that he used to have the girl they are with now, so they should be quiet before he humiliates them. While we may have interpreted this line as just a Future diss originally, on all levels beyond the technical wordplay of it, this is way more directed at Travis Scott, and to add even further validity to the fact that we all missed this, many other rappers have praised Drake for this ability to write so directly to people, including none other than Kanye West, who has been on record saying that one of the reasons he thinks Drake is such a prolific writer is because he can write bars that, while to the public may seem like nothing or something entirely different, between Drake and the person he is actually trying to talk to, only they will know if they have been dissed. So just contextualizing all of this and looking at the situation for what it is. From the way Travis willingly appeared on the album that disses Drake and was so excited about the song that changed Drake's career forever, to the way Drake responded and alluded to the fact that he used to be with Kylie Jenner. To dispute all of this as nothing would be ridiculous. And although there are definitely still some questions about the full-on state of these tensions as on push-ups, Drake also did say that Travis is in the big three over Kendrick Lamar. I still don't think this changes too much, as based on the metrics of hype and sales figures that Drake really seems to value so much over everything else, to not include Travis in this conversation would not make any sense. And while Drake may have some beef with Travis Scott, Kendrick was still his biggest rival at the end of the day, so I think he was willing to put anybody above his place. And also, with Drake having a massive Travis Scott head during his Big As The What tour with J. Cole, while this may have just been a cool tour prop at first, as this feud emerged while he was on tour, this could be the explanation for why Drake pretending to shoot the prop of the head got more and more intense by the end of it all. So all in all, here we are knowing that another massive rapper who has a ton of hits with Drake now hates him, and putting all of the obvious clues together, we can definitely see that Travis Scott and Drake's relationship on some level has took a turn for the worse, but the only question we really have to ask is, why did all this happen? Why has Travis Scott taken a stance against Drake all the way to the point where now it seems like they are no longer friends? And although this is hard to figure out, I have a few possible theories. Now, the most obvious reason could be because of something regarding Kylie Jenner, as who knows what Drake's up to these days, and with him being viewed as a snake to so many other rappers for trying to steal their girls, maybe Travis found something out, or he's just getting mad about their past relationship now. And recently, as we saw Travis have an altercation with Tyga, who also used to date Kylie Jenner, the behavior of Travis having animosity against people who used to be with his ex-girlfriend does line up in some sense. Or maybe Metro and Future influenced his viewpoint, or he could have just got sick of Drake bashing people like Pharrell on his own album, or even his idol Kanye West, who he has said he will be loyal to no matter what he does. A combination of all these factors just made Travis jump on the anti-Drake bandwagon, and I would say that this last theory is definitely the most far-fetched, but is still something to consider. But maybe Travis Scott and Drake have just never been as good of friends as we have thought, and instead, their respective labels have forced this sort of monetized friendship and working relationship they have, which has always seemed so strong. Now, while this is definitely out there, when we look at the fact alone that Drake sent in his verse for both Sicko Mode and Meltdown to Travis just hours before both Astroworld and Utopia were released, and at that, both of these verses also dissed people that Travis is friends with, like in Sicko Mode's case, Kanye West, and Meltdown's Pharrell Williams. Maybe Travis is disgruntled by Drake, and by quietly moving against him right now, is trying to sever this seemingly industry-mandated friendship, which when you look at all this, and just see how strange their relationship is when you look at their past and look at their conflicting allegiances, only seems to make more and more sense. So with all this said, let me know, What do you think about Travis Scott having a secret beef with Drake, and do you think that all of this adds up, or do you think this mysterious heavyweight who absolutely despises Drake is still hidden in the shadows? I can't wait to hear what you have to say, and if you want to see why Eminem just dissed Megan Thee Stallion and challenged the entire world on his new song, check out the suggested video.